Our first batch of rhubarb is ready to go. I thought I would bring you out and show you our small rhubarb patch. It's in one of those half whiskey barrels. It's just enough for my husband and I. And our first batch of rhubarb has come up. There's a few they need a few more days, but I think that there is enough here to make what I'm going to call a small batch of jam. I've ordered some new canning jars. These are by Weck. They're made in Germany, and they come in different sizes and shapes. And they don't have a metal ring top. They have a glass top, and then they have a gasket, a rubber gasket that seals it in tight for your canning. I'll start by making sure that everything is washed, rinsed well, and sterilized before we can. I usually just kind of shake the rings like that and rinse them, and they'll go in a separate pan in simmering water. Same thing with the little clips that come with these jars. I'm just going to hold them in my hand and rinse them back and forth, just to get off any kind of factory dust or dirt. If you're interested in this style of canning jars, I will leave a link in the description box below. I've preheated my oven to 200 degrees. I need to sterilize these jars, so I've placed them on a cookie sheet with a cloth underneath. They need to stay in for 10 minutes, then I will shut the oven off, leave the door shut till I'm ready to put the jam in the jars. A couple of the other tools we need is a ladle and a jar gripper for getting them in and out of the hot water, and some tongs that I'm going to use to get my gaskets out, and of course some hot pads. I've cut the top leaves off and discarded them because they are actually poisonous, but we're going to clean these up and cut them up. I'm cutting them into approximately 1 inch or so size pieces. If I find any damaged or rotted pieces, I just cut those off and we'll just toss them. I'm going to need a total of 4 cups of the cut up rhubarb. I'm going to go ahead and just give them a second rinse. I'm going to be using a heavy saucepan. Make sure that your pan is non-reactive. I'm using stainless steel, and we're going to add our 4 cups of cut up rhubarb to this heavy saucepan. We're going to add approximately 1/4 cup of either orange juice. I didn't have any oranges in the house, so I'm using tangerines. I just hand squeezed them, so we're going to use 1/4 cup of that juice. And 1 cup of organic sugar. I will not be using any kind of pectin in this recipe. We're just going to cook it down. I'm cooking this at between a medium and medium high. Now you can see my little saucepan to the back. It has the red gaskets in it. Right now I'm going to turn that on low, so by the time that the jam is ready, those gaskets will be up to just barely a simmer so that they will be ready for the canning process. I'm bringing my canner up to a boil. I'm going to add my ladle for a few minutes just so that it's sterilized before we put the jam in the jars. The jam has now been cooking for approximately 15 minutes. Now here you can see the jam is ready. It's nice and thick. If you want it thicker, you can, but as it cools, it'll get a little thicker. So we are ready to get our jars out of the oven and get this jarred up and do our water bath processing. Time to ladle the jam into the jars, and I'm going to stay about 1/4 inch away from the top of the jar. So each jar at that would hold about 3/4 cup. As you can see, I also have a pile of pre-moistened paper towels that I'm going to use to wipe the rim. 1 paper towel for each jar so that I don't recontaminate. Now I'm grabbing the ring, the rubber ring that, it may be made out of silicone, I'm not sure if it's rubber, but the gasket, we'll call it the gasket, and you apply it to the top of the jar, the glass jar. There's like a little ledge that it goes around. And then put it on, And then you're going to use 2 of those little clips. If you want to use more, you can use more, but usually it comes with 2 clips for each of the lids and make sure it's snapped down tightly. And that's all there is. And we'll get the other 2 jars ready and put them into the water bath canner. Now this is a small batch. This will make 3 jars of jam. The water is a full rolling boil. Always take the lid off, pointing away from you so you don't get burnt by the steam. I'm going to add the 3 jars. I know it's kind of overkill to have this large of a canner, but I'm looking for a smaller canner for smaller batches. And we're going to water bath this for 10 minutes. Make sure that your jars have at least 1 inch of water over the top of each lid. So I will be putting the lid back on the top of the canner, and then I will set my timer for 10 minutes. 10 minutes are done, and I'm going to shut the stove off. I'm going to carefully remove the lid. Set it aside, and we're going to leave the canning jars in the hot water for another 2 full minutes. We do this to help acclimate the jars from that rolling boil to a lesser of high heat, so that as we bring the jars out, there's not quite a shock. 2 minutes are up, so we're going to be taking them out safely now, and we're going to place them on a wood cutting board that has a cloth on it. These jars need to sit on the same surface without being moved till the next morning. The next morning, gently remove the clips and test for good seals. Today's Bible verse is James chapter 5, verses 17 and 18. Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed earnestly that it would not rain. And it did not rain on the land for 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heavens gave rain, and the earth produced its fruit. Thank you for watching Seasoned Living with Rosemary.